as promised, I have indeed devoured this huge Lovecraft collection that my friend has given me. I highly recommend this, by the way, if you're even curious, because I'm guessing because of the lack of copyright, this is dirt cheap on Amazon, even for a new copy. And it collects nearly all of his, well, definitely all of his great stories, I think. I mean, I'm going to keep it brief. One, because much in the way that Lovecraft describes the monsters, it's a bit hard to define why a Lovecraft story is good without reading one. But I'm going to share a bit of my thoughts on it, and hopefully encourage some people to read Lovecraft, or to show fans of Lovecraft that I get him. Lovecraft was really great at scientific science fiction. Because, for instance, How Rush Animator, a lot of the stuff he talked about in there has even come true, even though that was a more comic one of his stories. This was already very sprawling. This also comes to us very well in stories like Dreams in the Witch House, where Lovecraft blends science fiction with folklore really effectively. Because it's a story about witches, but he makes witches more believable by bringing a science fiction element to them by saying, you know, they're people who mastered mathematics and science so they could travel through dimensions. And again, it's something cheesy and good like that, but when you're reading it, it's really good. I think that's almost the definition of a pulp story. Like my friend was saying, he's been reading Conan, and he realizes how ridiculous and like chauvinist it is, but when you're reading it, you're just like, this is awesome. So, same sort of thing. Call of Cthulhu, the big guy, the famous one. There's a little Cthulhu, a little statue there. The illustrations in there are great. Call of Cthulhu. What's remarkable about that film most is probably the structure of it is bizarre. I mean, it's like Inception. Sometimes you're going 7 narratives deep, and there's no actual story. It's just people relaying accounts of things. I think that makes it more immersive. I haven't read anything like that, and I think by the time you get through all these, through the looking glass to the actual horror, you're stuck in there. And the other clever thing about that is you're exactly where the first person started when you read it, because you read all this stuff and now you're not safe. If you know if you take it literally, you've just read all that, and now you know too much. And I think that's brilliant, that's genius. But I think Lovecraft was probably just great, just plumbing the depths of the mind script with those creepy ideas. I mean, you look at something like Shadow over Innsmouth. I can't even put into words how bizarre and kind of genius that is. How do I don't want to ruin the twist. It's very tough for me. Folklore and science fiction and the absurd and the eldritch abominations that Lovecraft loves so much. Let's see, I'm really struggling to describe this. I tried writing my own Lovecraftian tale, by the way. I had to refrain from using the phrase, a horror whom only Lovecraft could conceive of its undescribableness. And it is true that Lovecraft does not like to always be specific about what the horror is, because, you know, if you knew, you would go mad too, obviously. But I personally like that, and I think it makes the points where he is more specific much more powerful, and the descriptions of everything else more powerful. I think Lovecraft responded to that in his story, The Unnameable. It's almost like a big joke, like a long joke you'd tell down the pub or something, with that concept explored. Almost in the way like someone like Wilde or many people would have, like, a dialogue where two people would talk and discuss a notion to convey the author's thoughts on it. It was a bit like that in a way. I think I might have got that idea from H.P. Lovecraft, so I'm sorry if I stole it. I've definitely been thinking about a lot of things recently, maybe since they said it. So yeah, definitely check out hppodcraft.com. Fantastic. They just started doing Shadow over Innsmouth, so I don't have to ruin it for you. They can do it. Part 2 should be up pretty soon, hopefully. But yeah, fantastic thing. And that's why I'm not going to put too much effort into this, because they just blow me out of the water. I had another point. What was it? Lovecraft and his twists, his like italicized last sentence or something. And the thing I picked up on very early on was that, like, you would pick them up a good 10 pages back, maybe what the ending was going to be. Something like Pickman's Model, you know, when you see the camera, you know something's up. Pickman's Model is one of my absolute favourites, by the way. Please read it and tell what you think. I'd really like that. Yeah, I found almost straight away that this didn't let it down. It almost thought it was more like a creeping tower, knowing that the twist is coming, because Lovecraft's strength, as often has been said, was not really plot. It was just that atmosphere. It was fantastic at that. It's something about his style. I don't know if it's just the fact that he writes in a very archaic manner, even for the 20s, or his dense description, like the layers building up. It could be any number of these things, but I think it's just that the kind of take Lovecraft has on it, it's like it's infused by madness, the way he sees things. It's that perspective, along with that knowledge that pervades all of Lovecraft's work, that, you know, it's almost existential, that there's no God looking after us, and the more we know about the universe, the more horrifying and madness-provoking it is. And, I don't know, that's really satisfying for me, just that there's no happy endings a lot of the time. And when there is a happy ending, it's usually even worse, because it's like, oh, they take this sorted out, but literally, that's it. Finally, I was going to comment on the story, The Music of Eric Sand, I believe one of our followers suggested a bunch, along with a bunch of others, which I think I have read. But seeing as I'm not going to go into too much depth about the story, I'll just mention what I thought of that one. The Music of Eric Sand, I found, I mean, structurally it's very similar to Pickman's model in the way that there's an artist who is sinister and crazy, and there's something weird about his artwork that is magnificent but disturbing. Why? The difference with Music of Eric Sand is there's literally no explanation of what the hell is going on. Like, you never know why. You're like looking at Eric Sand, seeing what the answer is, and you have no idea. And someone, I think it was an HP podcast, said that the story is particularly interesting because it was as if Lovecraft had written the story from Eric Sand's perspective, and then thought, nah, and then thought, have someone else witnessing this, so there's more mystery. And there's just so many weird things, like the fact that like I believe a whole road disappears in Music of Eric Sand, that can't be found. It leads up all the way to a crescendo of insanity, and there's no real twist, there's no explanation. I think a lot of people see that as a cop-out, but personally I found that really interesting and almost more disturbing that there was no explanation. And that's quite an experimental, I mean, right from, I mean, I know someone like Cthulhu is in a way, the way it's like documents going back and back and back. But, yeah, that's probably the most explicit form of ambiguity in Lovecraft's work. Whereas, you know, often it will just be a description that leaves a lot to your imagination. This is something that leaves like a whole story almost to your imagination. Yeah, I'm kind of in two minds about it, but I think overall I'm impressed by the boldness of that story and the fact that it's still creepy. I mean, the basic principle is, but that on top of it, the scope of it, endless. So, as you can tell, I think Lovecraft's a very talented writer. I've recently been checking out a lot of Lovecraft-related stuff, such as these comics, which are fantastic. There's a trade paperback out that's out, The Strange Adventures of H.P. Lovecraft. That was really good fun, really great art, really good writing. Watching documentaries, Fear of the Unknown was great. The H.P. Lovecraft Literary Society silent movie version called Cthulhu that came out in 2005, that's amazing. It's great to be in it, because especially now I know about Lovecraft, I realise how much stuff is influenced by Lovecraft, and it's just kind of endless. There's this whole underground of Lovecraft stuff, but there's also pervading literature and art. Still, I think it's probably possible to say Lovecraft's more popular than he's ever been. And I was trying to think you could actually say that about, because a lot of people are classics, but say someone like Conan Doyle's pretty past his heyday. But Lovecraft, I think, is going strong, and suits me.